Here I am in the new studio. I'm very excited to be here, and it's all more or less set up. You saw me working on it, I guess, in last week's video. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Anyway, we're here and we're running, and the first project, it's a small studio. It's a one-car garage. So what we're gonna do is this little race car body sent in by James. And he actually sent this to me and wanted to know if I could cast a bunch of them for him every month. And I basically said, no, I can't. And the reason for that is this fits with our running theme. And the running theme is things that were never meant to be resin cast. If you want to be successful resin casting, you have to design the object for resin casting. If you take an object that was never meant to be resin cast, there was never an intention, never a thought that this would be done using the resin casting process, and you try to resin cast it, you are going to have problems. You may most likely fail. So if I was designing this car body for resin casting, it would be completely different. It would look mostly the same, but it would have none of the problem areas that this piece presents. And certainly this object, which is injection molded, and you can see all the artifacts of the injection molding, all the little pins and all the mark and all the stuff. Everything that makes this easy and successful to be injection molded at a very high rate of speed simultaneously makes it almost impossible to resin cast. There's nothing easy or simple about resin casting a part like this. So what is it that makes it hard? First of all, it's full of holes. It's got holes everywhere you look. Second of all, it's got all kinds of little interior sharp edges, pins, things that stick out. Very, very tiny sections like this window post. Even tinier and thinner, I mean, almost impossibly thin spoilers. Just, I don't even know what that is, a 1/100 of an inch maybe? Tiny, just tiny. The whole thing, the body panels are very thin. There's absolutely nothing about this that screams resin casting. And in fact, everything about it makes it very difficult because almost no matter what orientation you hold it in space, it's going to be hard to fill. And it's going to catch bubbles in multiple places. So, remember what the basic principle is. The principle is you have a cavity, you have a hole in a block of rubber, you pour the resin in, it runs to the bottom, it fills from the bottom up, and it vents out the top. That's the principle we're working with here. So the problem is, first of all, how do I get the resin into this model? Once I figure out a way to do that, how do I hold it in position so that it can fill? And even when I do that, where am I going to have problems? Well, I know I'm going to have problems right here, and right here, and right here. Almost everything on the interior is going to cause me problems. So the chances of getting a successful casting out of these are low. We're going to use every trick in the book. In fact, I'm going to use a new trick that I've never used before. Hope it works. If it does, it'll be interesting and it'll be, I think, useful in the future. If it fails, we'll throw the first mold out and just start over. So that's what we're going to do. Let's get started and do the best we can, see what happens. I have broken out my least favorite material on the planet Earth, which is oil clay. What I really don't like to do is to clay up a model. If you're out there and you really like clay, and if you think it's a lot of fun and it's really cool to clay up a model, have at it. I really hate it. To put it kindly, I hate it. Rather than do what you would normally assume that I would do, which is carefully and meticulously clay up a parting line, I'm going to try a little experiment and see if this works and do the absolute minimum possible clay up and see if we can get this thing to work and to cast. And to do that, I'm going to use kind of a hybrid technique where I combine a bunch of different techniques where each one is appropriate, and you'll see what I mean in a second. So let's begin by claying up the windows on the car. So let's see if I can apply this to this. Okay, I'm trying to get it so, again, I can do it, but it's harder for me to do it where you guys can see it. Ever so gently put this into place and then press it into place. And just like that, I think that I have a reasonably clean parting line. Okay, can you see what I've done here? I have clayed up that parting line without any fussing, any sculpting, any sitting there with little jeweler's tools and making myself mental. No, I don't want to do any of that stuff. I just want to create a parting surface, which I have done. Okay, let's call that a success. Now I'll move on to the next biggest openings, which are these headlights. See if we can do something very similar. It's got to, now on the headlight, it's got to kind of push into that. Ooh, I did it. It's got to push into that scoop. Okay, that's not bad. Okay, instantly clayed up that headlight. Okay, let's try the other headlight. The first headlight seemed to work out pretty well. Let's clay out this headlight. Okay. Now the trick is going to be to not mung up the parts I've already done. That should make a parting line there. Let's clay up the little front radiator grill. Look at the magnificent craft skills required to do that clay up. I mean, you know, a monkey, a chimpanzee could be trained to do that, which means I can do it. My philosophy about craft is put the craft where it shows. Don't waste your time crafting the hell out of something that only you and God know is there. Remember that old story? Well, why did the carpenter make the back of the cabinet prettier than the front? Because him and God knew that it was there. What a dumb story. Craft is expensive. Craft is time consuming. Craft is difficult. Put the craft where it shows. Kind of goes along with my client philosophy. When I'm doing client work, I don't like doing client work. It's too hard. I'm trying to make somebody else happy. I don't like making other people happy. I like making me happy. So my philosophy about client work is exceed the client's expectations with the absolute least possible effort. So what's turning out to be the hardest part of this is not munging up the parts that I've already done. Super important not to mung them up. Okay, so now I've got the radiator grill part, the windscreen, and the headlights clayed up. I'm going to go around and clay up the smaller holes now. You get it. And when I'll come back to you, we'll do the second part of this. While you were out fooling around and living your lives, I was busy making a mess here. As you can see, I have the car body all clayed up and ready to go. You can see the exquisite craftsmanship of my clay job. But the only surfaces that I care about are the interior surfaces. I added a little bit of a sprue. This is just a channel for air, because that fender right there would catch air in my design of this mold. I mixed up, as you can see, a little cup of rubber. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip this very fine little pointed stick, because I need a tiny amount, tiny amount, not even a drop. And I'm going to mix that accelerator into this rubber. And that is going to speed the cure along so I don't have to wait 24 hours to see if this little experiment is going to work. Because I don't know if it's going to work. I'm probably mixing in a little bit of air as I do this, but it doesn't matter because what I'm doing is, let me show you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to coat the inside of where I clayed up. I'm going to coat that with rubber. I'm being very, very careful. Push it so that I don't catch air anywhere in here. In other words, what I'm doing is I'm pre-rubberizing certain areas. And the areas that I want to pre-rubberize are the areas that I clayed up. So let me go through and do that, making sure that I flow the rubber in. I really want to push the rubber into place. I don't want to catch any tiny, minuscule little bubbles in any of these cracks, in any of these places where you could really catch bubbles. So I'm being careful. If it's not immediately obvious to you what I'm doing and why, it will be in a minute. Like I said, I have never done a mold like this. This is my first effort, my first attempt at this technique. Might wind up being the stupidest thing ever devised in the history of mankind. Could fail catastrophically, is what I'm trying to tell you. But if it works, it ought to be a neat little trick. So we're going to hope for the neat little trick option. I'm just being meticulously careful to cover all of the areas where I put clay in the car body. I now want to cover in rubber. And I put an accelerator into this rubber, and that means that I shouldn't have to wait 24 hours to move on to the next step. Now, this rubber will gel, and after it gels, we'll move on to the next bit of business. Our beautiful first coat of rubber is cured and looking good, so that means that we can pull our little clay wads off and see how we did. Leaked under a little. Okay. May require some trimming. How much did this leak under? Leaked under a little. That's pretty clean. Okay. And this needs a little bit of cleanup. There's a little bit of flash, but it looks like it's just going to come right off. So here's what we're going to do. Here's the innovation. I'll clean up this little bits of flash that I got. But the innovation is that the parting lines for all of the windows are made, but they're made by rubber. And I'm going to spray a rubber-to-rubber release agent on this surface of the car. And then when this is entombed in a block, I don't have to worry about cutting those. I've already got the parting lines made. All I have to worry about is cutting as much of the perimeter as I need to cut to release the model. So I think that's going to work like a champion. We shall see. Let's finish preparing the rubber. So we're going to put the sprue on like this. That's going to be the funnel that's going to flow the resin into the model. We're going to put on some vents, and we are going to be ready to go. I don't know if you guys can hear the sound coming from the outdoors, but here's what's going on. I am working in the middle of a construction zone, and we're just going to all have to work around each other. We got the rubber on this side all trimmed up nice, and it's looking good. Now, let's put the sprue and the vents on. Get a little sticky wax going on. And what we're going to do is just lay a bead of sticky wax on just right in this area. And what we want is a shaped sprue. In other words, a sprue that fits perfectly to the object. Okay, it's an odd shaped sprue. It's a kind of a difficult sprue to attach for that reason. But there's nothing about this car that's funny and easy. Not anything. So we'll go with it. Just go along here and weld the funnel and the sprue to the body. Make sure that's melted on there well. Looking pretty good. All right, this is long enough. You get the idea. Now the other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put a vent off of here like that, a vent off of here, and a vent off of here. No getting around it. You need each and every one of those vents. And I will do that next. I got this funnel and the sprue mounted, and I also mounted 3 vents, as you can see here. I also calculated the size needed for our box size. So let's go out and cut the pieces. I bought this machine specifically for cutting mold cases, and so let's see how it goes. I find that it makes really nice cuts on thin materials and on even quite a bit thicker wood. So far I have to say I'm really pleased with the way it's working. Okay, got that all cut. Let's go back and see if we can assemble a case. All right, got the wood pieces all cut out, ready to go. And they're gonna fit more or less like that. It's going to be beautiful. Now, I'm not going to have a tremendous block of rubber around this car, and the reason for that is I'm going to use the case itself as a support system for a thinner piece of rubber. And I want the rubber to be nice and thin because I'm going to have to stretch it to find this parting line. Let's put some paper down on the table. The idea here is that the rubber that we poured yesterday have created the parting lines. Those surfaces, those blue rubber surfaces, are going to be the parting lines for this piece. So what's going to happen is I'm going to spray this front side, spray these parts with release, this stuff, so that the rubber will not stick. And you've seen me do that before. And Jeff's base, for instance, I did the exact same thing where I used a parting agent to keep the rubber from sticking to itself. But here's the thing. I want the rubber to stick on this side because I want to make a solid block of rubber where only these few surfaces aren't bonding, so that I don't have to worry about cutting these little surfaces out. All I have to worry about is cutting down the sprue and funnel and around in here. I just have to follow the parting line and just follow along the vents. And that might just work out perfectly. So let's get on with it and see how we go. Now, what I don't want to do is I don't want to put any parting agent where I don't want it, and I don't want it on anywhere on the vents or the sprue, because I'm going to need, let me take some junk clay here. I got some old junk clay laying around that I don't care about. Weigh this down. I don't want the vents or the sprue to get any parting agent on it, because I got to make those have to stick. I've got to glue them to the base. So let's do this thing. This is going to be a very light shot. I think that is going to be more than sufficient. All right. One of these days I'm going to gas myself. Okay. That done, I can handle this because I don't have any of that parting agent on these parts, and we're ready to weld. So let's find the base. Where's the base? Here's the base. Let's get this guy into position, see where we want him. And what I do is, usually what I do is I break out the old sticky wax, and I just put a snort of sticky wax on the bottom, and then I just sort of estimate where I think it needs to be. And then I check with this, like that. Check it all around. That's good clearance, that's okay. That's good clearance, that's fine clearance. In fact, if anything, it could move over a little bit more like that. And, which is more, it could come up a little straighter. And you say, but it's not touching right there. But it's wax, kids, it's wax. We can do whatever we want. Let's make it touch. Just using sculpting wax. We'll just build it up with a good blob of sculpting wax underneath there. There you go. That's all it took. I like wax because it's strong enough to hold the parts most of the time. But when it's time to take the whole thing apart, it's really, really fast. There's nothing worse than when you really have to struggle to take a mold case apart. You want it to just pop apart easily and simply, but you sure don't want it to fall apart before you're ready for it. That would not be good. Let me make sure that I made a really nice connection between where the vents touch the surface here. Nice firm connection, so there's plenty of airflow. We are ready to put the wood around this, and to do this I'm just going to use sticky wax to put the wood pieces together and seal it up tight, and then we'll pour some rubber. I wanted you to see how I oriented this car body inside the box. It's really basically pretty straight up and down, but that is not how I'm going to cast it. But I just wanted you to see how it goes in. And basically all I did to put this together was the old sticky wax treatment. One advantage to having the wood unwaxed, when I go to pour the resins, I will probably make this the same case into the parts for the cradle. And therefore, it'll be good to have them not waxed, because then the glue will stick. So now what I do when I've got it all waxed up is I just run the thing over it. And this sticky wax stays sticky for a while once you heat it. Just get in hot, and then it'll just stick on there. Like that. And it just does. It just sticks beautifully. To make sure that I'm confident that it's sealed, is I just go around with a bead of blue sprue wax. And just run a bead like that. Quick and easy. Super fast. Watertight. Not gonna leak. But it's gonna be super easy to take apart. Try that with hot melt glue, oh ye hot melt enthusiasts. And you will find you will not have an easy time taking that mold apart. I guarantee you are gonna work hard to take that mold apart. I mixed up a tub of rubber and we are ready to pour. So let's do it. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start in, I'm gonna pour into the corner, but I want to pour at an angle, so I'm running down the side. I'm going to run right down this corner to the bottom. There's room. I left enough room down this side that the rubber flows straight to the bottom of the mold, and it should be rising very nicely in there. No problems at all. Just keep pouring it. Fast, fast, fast. But it's just filling just beautifully. So far, I completely guesstimated the amount of rubber. Possible that I'll be close, but if I need to, I'll mix a small topping batch. I don't mind doing that. I'd rather mix a topping batch, as you guys have heard me say before. I'd way rather mix a topping batch than throw out a bunch of rubber. Hate throwing out rubber. It's looking like, as of right this second, it's looking like we're gonna need a topping batch. Now it's filled up. I'm not seeing a lot of bubbles rising up, and there's still quite a bit of rubber left in the cup. So let's see where we're at with my eyeball measuring. This is when mold making makes you go mental. And you just go out of your minds. I scraped and I scraped and I scraped, and I came up just a tiny bit short. I gotta mix a topping batch. And I don't have my handy dandy Chunko rubber with me. Otherwise I would simply cut some chunks of rubber and fill it. Oh well, time to mix a small topping batch, and then this mold is done. And tomorrow we'll be ready to pour. Got the mold all trimmed up. It's pretty. Let's see if we can't find our way to cutting this down. Let's just start cutting these vents. Cutting down these vents. Cutting down this sprue. You have to remember that it's the vents and the sprue that give you your landmarks as you work your way down towards the body of the model. So that's what I'm just following those down, and they're going to tell me where I'm going. So I'm not really guessing here. See how I'm following those down, cutting right in the middle of each one. At some point you can pull them out. There you go. There you go. At some point you can pull them out, and then they're not in your way, and you can really spread the model open. I'm trying to find the point where that vent touches the car body. That's what I'm looking for. Because as soon as it touches the car body, I know where I'm at. Okay, right there I touch the car body. Okay, now I can see the back of the car. And that's going to begin to tell me where to cut to. See how I'm now seeing where the car is? Once I know where the car is, I can begin to get oriented in space. That's probably coming off of there. There's a vent right in the middle, right there. Need to cut that one, because that's going to get me down to that spoiler corner, which is where I want to go. This is a fairly tricky cut pattern, just up here. Like I said, it's always hardest to start a cut. Now let's see if I can cut down a little bit more down this side of the car. Finding that wheel well. Found it pretty good. Now let's see if I can find the side of that body. Coming along pretty nice. Look at that. And it's cutting out pretty well. So far, I'm thinking like the details are looking pretty good. Okay, now do I need to cut this wheel well out on this side as well? I want to cut as little as possible, obviously, because I'll tell you, it's going to be hard to pull this car out of this mold. Okay, now the car comes out. Wow, look how perfectly my windows parted. Oh my goodness. Wow, that just worked out perfectly. See, I didn't have to cut the windscreen. I didn't have to cut the headlights. I didn't have to cut these little windows. I didn't have to cut any of that stuff. I don't see any bubbles. Okay, I am reasonably optimistic. We may have a usable mold. We shall see. I'm gonna build a little simple cradle that's gonna hang it like this in space. And we will do that next. I built a nice little cradle for our mold, just out of the original casting cradle and some scrap woods. Took me a while to figure it out. You could tell I'm I'm far from my CAD machinery, because I'm just cobbing these things together like craft-built birdhouses. All right, let's put this piece into its cradle. Put the top on, as always. I mean, put these pieces here because I want to put pressure in the middle. I don't just want pressure at the corners. You know what I want. You know what I say every time. I want even, gentle pressure all the way around, every time. I want the molds to be held together very gently, very evenly. Very nice. So you're not going to need a lot of rubber bands to hold this thing together. That's probably enough right there. And I want it to sit in space like that. That's how it's going to orient itself in space. Let me slide this down a little bit. Get my bands nice and even. Boy, I'm seeing zero parting line. That's just sweet as candy. That's perfect. Nice. The mold is held in the orientation that I want to pour it in. And I want it to cure in because I want it to fill from the bottom corner and rise up and hope and pray that these, you know, I might put a band around the middle. Might be beneficial to put a band around the middle just to help kind of hold that. That's good. Okay. That's not going to bother my pour, and it's going to help to hold that piece. That's nice. All right. There it is. There's our little beautiful moldy. All right, let's weigh out some res. I got the scale all ready to go. And how much are we going to need? Let's find out. Let's pop the bacar into the cup. The scale is all tailored for the cup. I'll bet it's not a heck of a lot more than 10 grams. Hoo-hoo, it's a lot less than 10 grams. 3 grams. Mother may I. Okay. That's 3.5 grams. The thing weighs nothing. All right, let's make a 10-gram batch because we have a funnel to account for. We have sprues to account for. So we're going to account for all that stuff. We're all set to go. Let's set the scale for 5 grams. Pour in the A side. It's going to be super easy to over pour it because that's very, very, very little resin. And that is 5 grams right there, just like that. Give me my rag, 5 grams. Let's go to 10 grams. Now, if I over pour the B, then I have to measure the over pouring and add more A. It's pretty simple. You don't want to wind up with an off ratio mix because there it goes. Just a tiny, just drops more. Let's mix. Make a nice red sports car here. Boy, I'm really going to be curious to see if this comes out even halfway decent. I'd be settled for quarter way decent. But we just don't know till we know. It's hard to mix a small amount because you know the stuff that sticks to the cup, the stuff that sticks to the bottom is a significant portion of the mix. So you got to make sure you really mix small amounts well. That's true of all resin amounts, but still. Okay, I'm going to call that a winner. This is how we're going to want that mold to sit in orientation in space, but I don't have to pour it in that orientation. I'm going to pour it like this. Well, that little sprue is letting it fill slow. It's got a very thin sprue. Okay. Oh, there it is. It's already up on the other side. I don't know if you can see it. I have to be careful not to over pour it, but you can see the material has risen up. Let's see what happens when I set it down. We may spill some resin out. Very little, very little. I'm going to hope that's above that corner. I think it should be. Well, it's going to be interesting. All right, let's go. Here, follow along with me. Let's go pop that sucker into the tank. Away we go on a journey over to the tank. Not much light over here. Let me turn on a shop light. Okay, at least we have some light over here now. Okay, into the tank we go. There's the lid. Okay, compressor is full of air. Put this in super gentle. let us inspect our resin. Now, by the sound of it, it is rock hard. I have left this in there for probably 40 minutes, which I don't like to do. The longer you leave resin in a rubber mold, the more the resin affects the rubber mold. It eventually, it just eats it. I don't know what the chemistry is, all that good stuff, but the longer you leave resin in a mold, the shorter the mold life. And that's just kind of the way it is. That's a trade-off. But I'm desperately concerned about these little posts. They are bumming me out because they are tiny and thin. And if we filled them, they're going to be the weakest part of the casting. Well, the spoiler is going to be the weakest part of the casting because it's super thin. But I'm not going to count that because that's pretty well attached. Let's see. Let's quit the yakking. It's too much yakking. Let's get this thing opened up. Very exciting. Here's the thing. Today is Wednesday. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you. Hope you have a good, safe holiday. I hope you sit in your closet by yourself with a bag over your head so you're safe. Do that. It's very important to be safe. Let's see what we got here. Okay, but tomorrow's Thanksgiving and I'm not working tomorrow. So this is the resin that we're going to get for this week. If it's perfect, we're done. And we can all say hallelujah and give thanks and all that good stuff. If it's a mess, if there's lots wrong with it, then that's going to be next week's video. We're going to analyze it. We're going to repair it. We're going to do whatever we need to do. Which is it? Lordy Lord. Here we go. Let's pull it. Let's pull it. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. It's kind of coming. It's coming. It's definitely fragile. What is that? What is going on with that? Oh, I know. Okay. We're okay. I suspect that's something's holding on to that. What is it? Oh, I know what it is. Of course, it's the sprue. I got to cut that. All right. That's interesting. I did not cut this sprue. Of course I didn't, you dummy. Let's cut it now. I forgot that this didn't go to a corner. It came to here, this point. So let's go ahead, cut that down, liberate that little vent. There we go. Okay. Now it will come out. Nope, still got a little bridge of rubber in there. Let's get it. See that? Okay. Beautiful. Let's get it out. Whoo! It pulled out. Wow. Well, as I pulled it out, I warped the hell out of it. But let's do some rough trimming here. Let me do it where you can see me do the rough trim. Maybe this block will help me. Let's do this rough trim. I'm not trying to trim them perfect. I'm just trying to trim them off. There we go. I have to clean them up afterwards. Same with this. I don't want to even attempt to cut it to its final thing. I'd rather sand it to its final thing. But we can, I think, cut it with a knife. See, now normally this resin would be soft enough that I would just cut it with a knife. Very quick and easy. There we go. Okay, so that will need to be finished. All right, so we're a little warped because we got, but hey, look at that. Wow, look at the detail. Not a bubble in sight. Spoilers are complete. Let's get this wheel well out of here. See this little wheel well? That was there. That was essential to keep that from catching a bubble right there. I would have caught a bubble right here if it hadn't been for this little thing right here, this little vent. Same with over here. Okay. Wow. That's just way, 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 way better than I thought it was going to be. That's basically a perfect casting. Holy moly. We caught, I think, every detail in this model. Okay, there's a teeny tiny bubble right here in this post hole. I don't care. Yeah, that's about as clean a casting as you could ask for. Need to set it flat so that it cures flat. Holy moly. Wow, you guys, I'm super pleased with this. And actually, I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty proud of myself. I have dreaded this project since the day it was sent to me. I just went, how in the heck am I gonna cast this? But what I'm really most pleased with, and as a technique, one that I'm planning to use again, is this business about pre-making the parting lines on the interior surfaces. Remember, I made the parting lines out of rubber on all of these interior surfaces, and then I sprayed them so it couldn't stick, but the backside did stick, and it all made a block mold, a cut mold. It's just absolutely flawless. It is absolutely flawless. That's as good a result as I could ever have. I'd actually, no lie, that's a much better result than I expected to get. I cannot lie to you. And I'm really pleased with that. It shows that it can be done. You can do it. You could cast pretty complicated things. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, hit that like button, put the notification bell on. We're getting an astonishing number of new subscribers. Welcome to all of you. But to all of my regulars and the people that have been here from day one, it's Thanksgiving. This is my day to say thank you to all of you. I'm just thrilled by what's happening with the channel. And I'm thrilled with the projects you guys are sending in. I would never in a million years have chosen to do this project, but it was fun and it was interesting and it came out great and it's fantastic. So send me questions and comments down below and have a great Thanksgiving, and I will see you next week.